Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Yvonne Skipper from the University of Glasgow, and today I'd like to talk to you about a project which I've been running, which is called Project Real, and it's all about how we can help people to spot fake news better. So Project Real is a program that's been designed by young people themselves, social media influencers, teachers, and university academics. And the aim of it is to help you to recognize fake news, which includes fake news, fake photos, fake videos, and conspiracy theories. The first question I want to ask you to think about is, have you ever come across fake news? Can you give an example of it? And why should we worry about fake news? Should we be worried at all? Is it something that doesn't really matter for our society, or is it something that's really important? So through this video, I'm going to give you some questions to think about. Please feel free to pause the video if you need a little bit longer. So I'll give you a second if you need to pause the video and have a chat amongst yourselves. Have you ever come across fake news? Have you got any examples of fake news? And should we worry about fake news? So here's what the research says. People believe fake news about 75% of the time. So most of us have seen some fake news at some point. Whether we've realized it's fake news or not is another question, of course, but people do typically believe it. So about 3/4 of the time when you see fake news, you will probably believe it. And it spreads 6 times quicker than the truth. So if you follow a piece of fake news on the internet, it will spread 6 times quicker than the truth. Quite often that's because fake news is a bit more exciting. It's a bit more, sometimes the headlines are a bit more emotional. And so we do find that it is spreading very, very quickly. And fake news also changes the things that we do. So to give you an example, fake news was found to impact how people voted in the most recent USA elections, but also it can affect things like, the things we might buy if we're looking for a new phone or a new camera. It can affect, what we think about certain people if we see news on the internet about things that they've said or done. So fake news is something that's really important because we believe it, because it spreads quickly, and because it changes the things we do. So how do we know if something is real or fake? Well, the UK government suggests that this is the way in which we should look to see if something is real or fake. So this is called the SHARE checklist. Some of you might have seen this before, and it's an acronym to help you to remember it. So S is for source, and it suggests that the first thing you need to do is see who wrote the article. So is it someone that you trust? Or is it a website that you trust? If it's some website that you don't really know anything about, you might want to check. And you might also want to think, well, why would someone write an article like this? So if Canon is writing an article about cameras, and they say, hey, Canons are the best cameras, you might think, well, okay, but you are trying to sell me these cameras. So first of all, source, who's writing it and why? Headline. Don't just read the headlines. Sometimes headlines are written in a way that's misleading. It doesn't necessarily tell you the full story. They're written in a way to get us to click. There's a lot of clickbait out there. They want us to click to go and have a look at the full article. So don't just read the headline, read the rest of it and see if it actually matches the headline, so you get the extra details as well. Analyze. So this is going a bit further and actually checking the facts. So, you might see some fake news a lot of places. As I said, it's spread quite quickly. So just because lots of different people are sharing a story doesn't make it true. So you might want to use some fact checking websites or other reliable sources to see if you think that it's true or not. R is for things like photos and videos. So we can see whether things look like they might have been manipulated or retouched. So for example, in photos, if they've edited them, sometimes you can see a bit of blur in the background. You might see kind of something that looks a little bit unrealistic. You might think, oh, I'm not sure if that actually happened. Sometimes with videos, there can be a little bit of a judder. Of course, that happens naturally when we're filming. Sometimes if something happens, people will do this, but sometimes judder can indicate that someone has edited them. So it's important to have a look at videos. And actually, you can also do a Google search to see if that video has been taken out of context. And then lastly, look for errors. So any fake news, some fake news stories have phony URLs, so URLs that look a little bit like CBB website instead of BBC or something like that. On Twitter, there might be tweets from something like the real Donald Trump rather than somebody's name. So you might want to look for those sorts of things. And also errors just in terms of grammar and spelling, which might indicate fake news. So source, who's saying it and why? Headline, don't trust the headline, read beyond it. Analyze. Have a look, see if you think that this story makes sense. Retouched, check to see if the photos or videos look like they're real. And error, look for mistakes. So all the way through, I want you to think about these SHARE guidelines and see if they can help you to recognize some of the examples of real and fake news I'm going to give you. So what we've got is a range of videos and photos and articles. So first of all, we're going to look at articles. I want you to guess if they are real or fake. Again, I'm going to show you them and point out maybe some salient points, and then you can pause it if you think you need a little bit longer. Then we're going to look at photos, and lastly, videos. So remember, share guidelines. Think about that, and also try not to just say that's real or that's fake, but have a think about why you think that might be. Okay, ready? Here we go. Venice canals run clear. Dolphins appear in Italy's waterways amid coronavirus lockdown. So what do you think? Is this real or no real? This news is fake. So the truth of this matter, when you go and have a little bit of research, so my analyzing, is dolphins are sometimes found in certain areas of Venice anyway, not just during coronavirus lockdown. And this photo was taken in an area of Venice where dolphins are regularly spotted. If you look at the source, it's Classic FM, which might not necessarily be the best source. And also, if you read beyond the headline, you might see a little bit more detail. I obviously didn't allow you to do that here, but there is a little bit more detail about the fact that it's not just because of the coronavirus lockdown. Here's another one from the Metro this time. Curious story of the man who tried to mail himself to Wales from Australia after getting homesick. So what do you think? Is this real or no real? This news is true. The Metro is an established newspaper, so you can fact check the story for accuracy. And I was able to do that and find out that this was true. This person needed to mail themselves home because they couldn't afford a plane ticket, and they thought, well, if I can just get in a box, I can get myself home for cheap. So it did actually happen. Here's another one. Final word on the College of Architecture and Planning sign. And you can see here they've made a bit of a mistake, even though they're College of Architecture and Planning, because they didn't actually leave enough space to put the full thing on there. So do you think that this is real or not real? This news is false. This was photoshopped very well. Pretty good job of photoshopping, because you can still see the weathering around the letters. You might also be able to tell from the URL. I don't know if you're able to see it, but it said planning sign joke in it as well. So there's another example of looking at the source who's saying it. Another one, Canadian lawmaker caught naked during video conference. What do you think? Is this one real or no real? This news is true. So basically, this guy went for a jog, came home, he tuned into Zoom or whatever video conferencing software they were using, and he was getting changed, didn't realize that he'd left his camera on, and he was actually naked during this important session. So again, this is something that you can check for accuracy. I did go and do some fact checking of this, and it is a true story. Very unfortunate for the guy. Okay, so that was fake articles. And real articles, of course. Now we're going to go on to fake photos. These are a little bit trickier, so you might not necessarily get all of these right, but let's see how you get on. So fake photos. One of these is a real photo that somebody took with a very good camera. One of these is a fake photo, which somebody completely made digitally. So, you know, the same way they made like the Toy Story movies and things like that. So which one of these photos do you think is real? And which one do you think is fake? One is real and one is fake. And the answer is the volcano is fake. So someone actually did take a photo of those bubbles. Pretty good photo. The volcano is a fake photo. It'll be very difficult to tell this. I should say that these photos and the ones on the next slide have actually been designed to show how good fake photos can be these days. Here's another one. Which of these photos do you think is fake? Is it the vase or is it the wave? So one is real. Again, one has been completely made up. It didn't exist at all. What do you think? And the answer is the wave is fake. So that's been photoshopped. Pretty good job, I'd say. Again, these ones have been designed to show how difficult it is. So I'll go on to ones that are a bit more easy for you, or a bit more the sort of thing that you would be likely to see. Here's a really famous photo that was taken in Bali at the gates of heaven. So do you think that this photo has been photoshopped? I'll give you a second to think about it. And again, why might you think that? And the answer is yes. Now this one is interesting because it hasn't just been photoshopped. This actually, you can see here, this is what the gates of heaven look like in real life. You can see there is no pool. What happens is people take photos here, and this is a mirror. So you can see the camera here, and they're taking a photo. So when you look at it, it looks like there's this beautiful lake in front of the gates, but there isn't actually water here at all. So you can see a real example here, not just of photoshopping, although I would say that probably this looks like it's been photoshopped or at least color balanced as well, but even more practical effects as well. So you can't always trust everything you see. Here's a picture of Angelina Jolie. Do you think that she's been photoshopped? Again, please feel free to pause the video if you need a little longer to discuss. No, that one wasn't photoshopped. That's what she looks like in real life. You can see here the photoshopping, which they've done. So again, you can see they've balanced our skin tone, for example, as one thing that they've done, and brightened the whites of her eyes. Here's another photo from one of the influencers who helped to design our project. So this is Bushra in a shopping center. Do you think that she's photoshopped that or not? The answer is yes, that one had been photoshopped. So you can see here, this is what the photo looked like in real life. And if you're going to do a little spot the difference, you can see that she's edited out some of the people. She's light balanced it as well. Now, again, this is pretty difficult to tell. You know, she's done a good job here. Oh, she's added a few more balloons as well, look, you can see. You can see she's also added some trees. So this is difficult to tell. She's done a pretty good job, but sometimes things like shadows can tell you. So you can see here, she doesn't have a shadow. She does here, subtle shadow, because of course there's light coming from different things. So that's one thing that you can look at to see. Quite often people will forget things like shadows. They'll be quite focused on the original person. So, you know, they sometimes forget the little extra details as well. All right, another one. Here's Jennifer Lawrence. Do you think that this photo has been photoshopped? Yes or no? And the answer is no. Here's the photoshopped version, which was on the magazine cover. So you can see they've changed the shape of her hips, and they've also darkened her makeup, for example. So again, another example of photoshopping. And also the colors are very slightly different here of the skirt, you can see. And another one provided by, again, another one of our influencers. Do you think that this one has been photoshopped? Yes or no? And the answer is yes, it's been photoshopped. So you can see she's done some work with the color balance here. So it's slightly pinker over here, but obviously the major one you can see is she's put these kind of sparkles on it to make it look a little bit more magical. And you can see she's kind of brightened her face a little bit as well, just so that you can see her a little bit more clearly in the photo. So you can see that people are editing photos, and some of these are, you know, quite subtle. You know, we might edit holiday photos and things like that because it might make us look better, for example, or you might see us a bit clearer, you know, in that last one where she was a little bit dull. And, you know, sometimes these sort of things can maybe make people feel more confident. But of course, there can be a bit of a dark side to this, because if people see photoshopped photos, they might think that that's what people really look like, or they might have really unrealistic expectations when they go to a place and expect it to look a certain way, but because everybody is photoshopping the gates of heaven, for example, it can be a bit problematic. So maybe it's worth having a little discussion about whether you think it's good or bad that people edit photos and why you think that.